In today's video, I'm going to be taking this dingy, beat-up looking Game Boy Advance and turning it into the ultimate Game Boy Advance. So just a few things that I want to mention. This backlit screen mod for the Game Boy Advance does not technically require any soldering. You can install it without soldering by simply plugging in the ribbon cable. However, if you want to be able to adjust the brightness of the screen up and down, then you have to solder 3 wires. Now, I wanted to make this the ultimate Game Boy Advance with a new shell, new buttons, the backlit screen with adjustable brightness, a new glass screen cover, a rechargeable lithium battery that can charge via USB-C, and a new louder speaker. Unfortunately, handheldlegend.com they were sold out of the speaker, so I had to wait on that. I went ahead and ordered it from Retro 6, but that's going to be coming from the UK, so it's going to be taking a while. So I didn't want to wait, so I decided to go ahead and put it together without the speaker, and I will install the speaker at a later date. And I also want to mention, this is not an instructional video. This is simply me very briefly showing you the process that I went through to install this mod and put everything together. There are much better and much more detailed instructional videos on all this stuff that you can find on YouTube. Tons of videos, so don't use this video as a guide on how to do this mod or any kind of mod for the Game Boy Advance for that matter. So let's talk about what you're going to need for this project. You will of course need a Game Boy Advance like this one. I highly recommend getting a 3D printed shell from Retro 6 or handheldlegend.com, which I will leave a link to in the description down below, because this shell is pre-cut for you for the backlit screen mod, and it's just going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. Now, if you want to replace the buttons, you will need a set of buttons with the membranes. For this particular build, you will of course need to get the backlit screen mod, which you can get from Retro 6 or a Handheld Legend. If you want to do the battery mod, you're going to need the Clean Juice battery mod, which you can also get from Handheld Legend. And then lastly, if you want to do a tempered glass screen cover to replace the original screen cover, then I recommend picking up one of those as well. And again, links to all of these products will be in the description down below. Now, the other thing you're going to need, I highly recommend getting a screwdriver, an electronic bit set like this one that will come with all the different bits you need. For this particular project, you're going to need tri-wing bits and you're going to need regular Phillips head bits. Now, while you have it open, you're going to want to clean the board, the PCB, the circuit board on the inside, and for that I highly recommend using some regular isopropyl alcohol. I recommend going with 91% if you can, and then also a can of compressed air to spray it out with. I recommend buying this brush kit off of Amazon. It's pretty cheap. It comes with a wide variety of brushes that you can use to clean the board. You can also use Q-tips, or you can use an old toothbrush that maybe you're not using. Just make sure you get something with soft bristles, because you don't want to damage the circuit board while you're cleaning it. Also, highly recommend buying at least one pair of tweezers, or you can get this tweezer kit that I got off of Amazon. I'll leave a link to all these products in the description down below. This particular backlit screen allows you to adjust the screen brightness by holding select and pressing L and R, but it does require some soldering, so you may need a soldering station if you want that feature, but you can still install it without that feature. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to take the Game Boy Advance apart, and you have to take the screws out of the back. There are 7 screws total to remove from the back of the unit. There are 6 tri-wing screws, and there's 1 Phillips head screw which is hidden under the battery door compartment. Have all the screws removed, you can simply pull the back of the handheld off. Have the unit open, the next step is to pull the L and R button out. After that, remove your on-off switch. It just pulls right out. And you want to remove the little side pads on the sides of the Game Boy Advance, and we can set those to the side. Now, the next thing we need to do is remove the screws that are holding the circuit board in place. You should be able to identify them easily enough just by scanning across the board, and they should be Phillips head screws, and you just remove those and then we can pull the board out. Before we pull the board out, we do need to remove the ribbon cable for the screen. and I recommend using tweezers or something really fine because there are 2 tabs on both sides of the ribbon cable that you have to kind of pop out. Once you've popped those tabs out, then you can use a pair of tweezers or something else to very gently remove the ribbon cable. You want to be gentle with the ribbon cable because that is a fragile component. You do not want to damage it. The board should just lift right off, and the board is the only thing that we're going to need to keep for this particular build. We will not need the old shell, the old screen, the old buttons. We're not going to need any of that because for this build we're doing a full shell replacement, new buttons, new battery, new screen, the whole 9 yards. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to clean the front and the back of the circuit board really well with rubbing alcohol and brushes and maybe a few Q-tips. And if you have a spray bottle, I recommend throwing some rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle so that you can spray the board down real good. And don't worry, it's not going to hurt the board to spray it with rubbing alcohol as long as you make sure that it is fully dry before you put any power to it. And the great thing about rubbing alcohol is it does dry very quickly. So I'm going to spray the board down. I'm going to scrub it very gently with my brushes. You don't want to put too much pressure down, just a light scrubbing. And I'm going to get everything nice and cleaned up. So here's what we have in the kit. We have the foam backing that's going to go on the back of the screen. We have the 3M tape, which we're going to use to stick the screen to the shell. We have these 3D printed brackets to help us line the screen up properly. And we of course have the screen itself and the ribbon cable with the little circuit board that goes with the screen. And we have the 3 wires as well if you choose to wire it to the board so that you can adjust the brightness, but that is optional. You do not have to wire it to the board. So the next thing that we want to do is plug in the screen to the Game Boy Advance so that we can test it before we put everything together. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and solder the 3 wires to the little circuit board ribbon cable for the backlit screen mod. The next step was to take the 3M tape and put it around the inside edges of the bezel on the inner part of the 3D printed shell where the screen will be sticking to. And unfortunately, I ran into a lot of problems with this step because my 3M tape that came with my backlit mod did not match the 3D printed shell. So I ended up having to cut it up to get it to fit, and it took a really long time. It was not fun. Hopefully you'll have better luck than I did. The next steps were to remove the sticky backing off the 3M tape, take the screen, remove the protective layer off the front of the screen, put it in place in the proper orientation, put the 3D printed brackets in place to hold the screen down, fold over the ribbon cable, put some 3M tape down to hold it into place, and then solder the select wire to the proper point on the circuit board. Next up, I'm going to take my new pack of buttons and membranes, and it also comes with a new set of screws for the circuit board and the 3D printed shell as well. We're going to drop all the buttons into place, but the membranes on top of them, very easy to do, pretty self-explanatory. Then I'm going to go ahead and solder the select wire to the proper point on the circuit board, and we're going to drop the circuit board into place and put the screws in it. Next up, I soldered the final 2 wires for being able to adjust the brightness. After that, I put the left and right shoulder buttons back in, as well as the side plastic for the Game Boy Advance and the on-off switch. Next up, I installed the Clean Juice battery mod, which is a USB-C lithium-ion rechargeable battery that does not require any soldering, and you don't even have to connect it to the circuit board. Super easy to install. I did have to finagle it a little bit to get it in there properly, but eventually once I figured it out, it's pretty easy to put in, and once you put it in there, you don't ever have to take it out. Next up, it is time to put the tempered glass screen protector on. First thing I had to do was clean the screen itself, the backlit screen itself, really well. Make sure it's free of dust and particles before I peel the 3M tape off of the tempered glass screen cover and put it on. Now the funny thing is, well, it's not really funny, as careful as I was to make sure no dust or particles got in there, a little freaking cat hair got in between the glass screen protector and the screen itself in the lower right hand corner, and unfortunately, because I've already stuck the glass screen cover on, there's no easy way to get that hair out of there. Now thankfully it's not very noticeable whenever you have a game on with the screen brightness turned up, so I will just deal with it for now. And last thing is simply to put the sticker on the back of the 3D printed shell and then turn it on and make sure it works and everything looks good. Now, I absolutely love this thing. This is so much better. The shell looks so good. The matte black with the black buttons. I love the black on black with this shell because black is my favorite color. So of course I'm going to go for black buttons with a black shell. The screen looks fantastic, especially if you crank it up to the max brightness. It just looks so damn good. The rechargeable lithium ion battery is awesome. I mean, essentially I have taken an old dingy looking Game Boy Advance and turned it into something entirely different. Turned it into a beast with a much better, much crisper, much brighter screen. I don't have to deal with AA batteries anymore. The only thing I'm lacking is the better speaker, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. All in all, I'm very happy with all these products from Retro 6. They are a fantastic company with some fantastic mods for various consoles, and I highly encourage you to check out their website, as well as Handheld Legend if you want to purchase some a little closer to home if you live here in the States. But if you live in the UK, you might as well purchase them from Retro 6 Either way, it's a great product and I couldn't be happier with it. And I also plan on buying a flash cart to plug into the back of my Game Boy Advance, which will allow me to throw an SD card in there, and I can take ROMs of all the Game Boy Advance games that I own, put them on that SD card, and I'll have my entire Game Boy Advance library right at my fingertips without having to swap cartridges. And the great thing about the flash cart is it's not emulation. You're actually loading the ROMs using the Game Boy Advance hardware, so you don't have to worry about having to deal with the issues that come with emulation. I think this is a fantastic second mod project that I've taken on, and I'm actually pretty proud of myself that I was able to do it successfully with relatively few issues, and it definitely makes me a little bit more confident when it comes to taking apart a console and changing things inside of it. Well, there you have it, folks. That is my video and my experience building almost the ultimate Game Boy Advance. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and hit that like button. Let me know in the comments down below if you have done one of these mods yourself and what you think about it, or maybe you just bought one that was already modded from somebody. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Also, let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in modding one of these yourself. I'm very curious to hear that, if you're ready to take that plunge like I did. As always, folks, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure and hit that like button. If you're new here, consider subscribing so that you can join the Retro Wolf family. Stay safe out there, keep playing games and having a good time. I'm going to go play some Game Boy Advance, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Later.